Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So the word Manisha, the way it is explained is Mana Isha, the one, that which is the Lord of the mind. Mana Isha. So what is the Lord of the mind? The intellect, your determination, your ability to make a determination or be decisive about something. That is the Lord of the mind. Also, we can say, if you look at Drishya Viveka as a work, say the Lord of the mind is the Atma. The Atma is the one that is powering the mind. So this work is about knowing that truth, knowing that self within yourself, and also arriving at a particular decision or determination or conviction. The word that is used is conviction. So coming to a conviction about what? About what is truth and how do I attain to that truth. So what is the story here? The story here is, those who have read Shankara Charitram, Adi Shankara's Charitram, you will know the story. But it is always nice to recall some of these stories because it gives us a perspective of what it means to us. The verses Manisha Panchakam obviously is Vedanta, but how it occurred is also important because then it also gives us an inspiration of how to look at it. So there's a time when Adi Shankara was going around Kashi with his disciples, and on a particular day he is walking in a street, and a Chandala comes in front of him. So a Chandala is known to be a Panchama Jati person. Panchama Jati is, we may not know very commonly. We know the four Jatis, right? The Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These are the four Jatis we know. But there's a fifth Jati called the Panchama Jati or the Chandala Jati. This is the group of people who essentially are around dead bodies. So they burn dead bodies. Uh, in fact, there is a verse that says Shwapacha. They also eat. They are known to eat dogs. So they are meat eaters, and generally they are not considered to be I wouldn't say they are cannibals really. They don't eat human beings, but yeah, I don't know what cannibals would be called. But these people existed within our society, and they would do this work. So if you go to Kashi, those who had come for the yatra, you will remember there is a jati called Dom, Dom, Dom Jati, or Dom community. This community of people, generationally, they have been doing this work of burning bodies at the ghats. Those who recall, there is a Manikarnika Ghat, there is a Harishchandra Ghat, and there are ghats where bodies are burnt in Kashi on the banks of Ganga. So this particular community has been given the blessing by Shiva that if a body gets burnt by you, there's a possibility of them attaining moksha. So Kashi, even otherwise dying in Kashi, it is said that you attain to moksha, right? Because it is said that Lord Shiva comes and chants Taraka mantra in the ears of those who die in Kashi. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ramanama, Lord Shiva comes and chants into the ears. That is the uh, traditional knowledge about the place of Kashi. Kashi has a lot of these stories built because of its significance of the place. Now, he is walking and he sees this Chandala, and this Chandala is, like in the photo of the book, I created an image from AI. So if you see, he looks all worn out and very dirty looking. Uh, Probably one loin cloth he's wearing. He's got some dogs around him. Animals are running around him. Maybe he's also carrying meat with him and things like that, right? So not very pleasant looking individual. So the moment you see something like that, there is a sense of despise. There is a sense of bibhatsa அப்படின்னு ஒரு term இருக்கு. In the Navarasas, there is a term called bibhatsa. ஒரு அருவருப்பு. An appropriate term in Tamil is அருவருப்பு. அதை பார்த்தாலே ஒரு. So that um, he realizes that, so he doesn't realize it. That's a reaction that comes out of Adi Shankara. And he says, move away. So the first thing that he sees, and he says, move away. Because he considers himself as pure. So here, Adi Shankara and his disciples, they consider themselves to be, of course, Adi Shankara is a Brahmin by birth, but he is now given up all kind of jatis. See, look at the situation. He has given up all jati, he doesn't belong to any caste anymore. Right? As a sannyasi, you've given up all castes. Whether you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, if you become a sannyasi, you have no association with caste. But somewhere deep within, that association is still there. Right? I am pure, I am clean, and I should protect myself from unclean things. So immediately he tells, go away, go away. As a natural, see, look at this. And he is somebody who's going around teaching Advaita Vedanta. Okay. And he is, now the point to note is, even for such a man, it's possible that the innermost tendencies surface out. So we don't know when it exactly happened in his lifetime, right? Could have happened much earlier in his lifetime or whatever. But the important thing is that our innermost tendencies, we think would have gone, but they may surface out at appropriate situations or instances, which is why it is very important for us to realize that whatever situations Bhagavan gives us, God gives us in our life, those are situations to help release these tendencies that are within us, which even we wouldn't know of. See, if this Chandala wouldn't have come in front of Adi Shankara's this innermost tendency wouldn't have found expression at all. And what happens to us? We generally will think that I am fine, I'm okay. நம்மள கார்னர் பண்ணாதான், only when we are cornered, then a lot of things from us come out. Whether we're emotionally cornered, financially cornered, mentally, intellectually cornered, in whatever form you get cornered, you get challenged, then this tendencies come out. So in a way, we should always be thankful for the people and the incidents and the kind of things that happen to us, actually ways of helping us face that challenge. Otherwise, we can go into complacency. Like we said, why we started off saying, why do we need a break? It's the same reason. Because every day I'm reading Bhagavatam, every day I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, every day I'm reading this thing. Mind la vandu, it'll go into a state that, yeah, I'm fine. Every day when you read, you associate with it, you think that you have become that. And where do you test it out? That is why going and being in a remote ashram or in the Himalayas and meditating, it will be very beautiful. If you're able to manage the environment, extremely beautiful. But only when you come amidst people, engage, transact, we will know where we really are. So a lot of people, that is why even those ascetics who are performing their tapasya, they come into the world. They come into the world once in a while. So same thing with Adi Shankara. Now he is in a situation where within him, he is definitely in a much better place than others, right? He is in a state of established within himself. There is an understanding of truth. All of that is there. But yet there are these tendencies. So this might as well be a story also. We don't know. But it's a good story for us to take inspiration from. So he looks at him and he says, go away. Now, here's the turn which Adi Shankara didn't expect, right? Now, this Chandala, now the story says he's Shiva himself coming in that form. But not necessary, right? In fact, I remember somebody telling me they were going in Tiruvannamalai, they were going in an auto. And suddenly the auto guy, there's some conversation that struck. And my friend who was traveling in the auto, he was telling something to this auto driver, and the auto driver suddenly gave him Ramana Tattva. Ramana's philosophy, he started telling him in a very practical way. And my friend was shocked. It's like, my God, auto kara vandu. An auto guy is able to talk philosophy like this, right? But if you are paying attention, you will catch it. Anybody can give you this knowledge. Now, we will want to glorify it saying, oh, Shiva himself came, oh, Krishna himself came. We want to glorify. So that way the story goes that Chandala or Shiva himself came down to give a lesson to Adi Shankara. We can keep that aside for the time being. The important thing is the Chandala. Why can't a Chandala be a wise one? That is the Vishyam. The whole thing of this is, even a Chandala can be wise. So we are in no position to make those judgments. So this Chandala responds to Adi Shankara's go away, go away. The moment he says go away, Chandala says, who are you asking to go away? Oh Dvija. He calls him as Dvija. Oh Brahmana. Hey, that's why he makes a reference to him as Vanchasi. Yati vara. Bruhi gaccha gaccha. So he calls him as somebody who is, because he is now showing his characteristics of a Brahmin. And there is a similar story in the Alvars, Tirupan Alvar. There is a similar story where Tirupan Alvar is a Shudra caste. And one of the Brahmin guys, or the priest of the temple
butter, yeah.
Temple butter, he insults him, and then when he goes into the temple, he loses his eye.
Throws a stone at on his head.
He throws a stone at him.
He doesn't move away. He's immersed in singing the Pasuram. And then this guy keeps saying, you have to move and make way because I'm carrying water for the Lord's ablutions. And he's completely, drenched in that.
Bhakti of the
Yeah,
Pasuram.
bhakti. Yeah, yeah. And then he throws a stone at him. And he starts bleeding, and that's when he realizes, he says, "Sorry, Swamin, I'll move away." And then when he goes inside, he sees that Ranganatha is himself bleeding from his forehead.
Hmm. Correct. So the temple priest goes and sees Ranganatha Swami himself bleeding, and then he realizes that the mistake that he's done. And he comes outside and falls at this Shudra's feet, who is then later becomes Tirupan Alvar. So there are stories like this where, and of course, we also have Kannappa Nayanar and so several other stories that are there where the story is about how society judges somebody by caste. Right? Even we went to Puri Jagannath, Salabega. We saw that Salabega was a Muslim, so he was kept aside. He wasn't allowed to see Puri Jagannath. And then later, Bhagwan's grace, even today, that Rath Yatra, when it comes, it halts for a few minutes at the Samadhi of Salabega and then only goes. So here he says the Chandala looks at Shankara and smilingly tells him, "What are you asking to move? Who are you asking to move? Are you asking this Sharira to move? But the Sharira is inert, it cannot move. Or are you asking the Chaitanya, the consciousness or the Atma inside this to move? And that cannot move anywhere because it is Sarvavyapi. It is there everywhere. How can this move?" So, you look at this, the way he responds is extremely profound, right? And it is in line with Adi Shankara's philosophy itself. The philosophy Adi Shankara has been teaching, now somebody throws it back at him. So Adi he's stunned, Adi Shankara is stunned and he falls at his feet, and then from that Manisha Panchakam is revealed. Right. And then the Panchakam has of course Panchakam 5 verses. One of the explanations, Swami Sarvapriyananda's explanation, he explains, the way he explains is that he says the 4 verses, the first 4 verses are an expression or a description of the 4 Mahavakyas. So there are 4 Mahavakyas, right? Prajnanam Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All of these 4, the each of these 4 verses, he says, is a elaboration of that Mahavakya or refers to that Mahavakya, and the last one is a summary. This is a particular interpretation. But for us, if we look at this, like we also did Hastamalakiyam, right? Before the break, we did Hastamalakiyam. This is also similar to that in that in the sense that this is profoundly Vedantic text. There is no bhakti here. There is no Bhagavan here. This is purely jnana. Jnana means you introspect, you understand. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. This is what you do with this. You listen to this, you try to understand and try to negotiate with what you've understood, because you have to get to that understanding. You can ignore what is being said, but that's the truth. So if you ignore it, loss is ours. எனக்கு புரியலன்னு சொல்லிட்டு விட்டுறலாம். Can say that doesn't make sense to me, so I drop it. But the whole journey is about making the effort to understand what is being said. Because if you drop it, then again we lose the ability to connect with what is being said. And what is being said is the truth. And what is being said here is not just being said by him, it's being said by all texts that we've studied, says the same thing. It says the same thing. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. All of these vakyas, all these Mahavakyas are being said by all of these texts. So Manisha Panchakam in that sense is with every verse, Adi Shankara says that it doesn't matter who it is, whoever has this understanding of the truth, whoever has this understanding of this knowledge, this wisdom, is my guru. Chandalostu, what does he say? Chandalostu, Dvijostu. Chandalostu Satu Dvijostu Guru iti Esha Manisha Mama. It doesn't matter whether that person is a Chandala or a Brahmana. It is my firm conviction, it is my firm determined understanding that that person is my guru. That person has the stature of my guru. He is equal to my guru because he has this understanding. So it doesn't matter whether it's a Chandala. So this is why what happened is, and also remember, this is a time when the caste system was very rigid, and which is why later Ramanuja and all came about 400, 500 years ago, 500 years later, about, yeah, this is 700, 1100, 1000, about 300, 400 years later, he came and he broke this. He started telling people, everybody is welcome. He gave Om Namo Narayana to everyone and all of that. Because the whole caste system was very rigid. And also, knowledge of this kind was only available to the elitist in the community, only the Brahmanas in the community. Of course, unfortunately, even today, if Ramanuja has done that, today Vaishnavites are Brahmins, and then there is that elitist attitude even there today also, because in fact you see Vaishnavite groups are far more exclusive these days, right? Although Adi Shankara, Ramanuja, all of them wanted to make it more inclusive so that more people can be part of this knowledge, understanding, and they can also bring it into their lives. Unfortunately, groups have become more and more exclusive, right? Vaishnavite groups have also become very exclusive. So all of these, we become communal groups now. This is also very important. This work is important for current day and age, where there's so much of confusion in the world. We are wanting to take a side. We're wanting to be part of a community. We're wanting to be part of a group. We're wanting to be associated with some either slogans or philosophies. We want to associate ourselves because we think that gives us security. That only gives you bondage again, some kind of different kind of a bondage. When we're too associated with a group, with a community, with a with a particular, see, that is why once in a while going to some of these places in Rishikesh, Haridwar, Himalayas, Uttarkashi, and all that is very good because you see people who are free. You'll come across a lot of free monks, free living monks. Of course, there'll be some who will come and they'll use the monk dress to come and beg and all of that. But you will actually see some monks who are able to walk about freely. And the Turavin Choluva Terima, the word Turav, they are able to drop everything, renunciants. True renunciants you'll be able to see in some of these parts of the country. And it's very beautiful, it's very inspiring. And one can be like that if one chooses to be. It doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that you have to come back home and suddenly drop everything and be like that. Continue to do what you do, but internally. Understand all of this is about your internal space. How do you manage your internal conditionings? So wanting to belong to a community, a group, a jati, all of that is there prevalent within us even today. Very strongly. How much ever, you'll see a lot of people, how much ever spiritually grown they may appear, they'll still want to be belong to a particular community, a particular group, a particular, they'll say, God is everywhere, but it is my God. It is my God that is everywhere. I welcome you all into my group. See, this is what it is. I am very inclusive, but into my group. Which means I've created a group, I've created a structure, I welcome you all into my group, which means what? As long as you come into my group, you're included, otherwise, you're excluded. This mentality is very prevalent now. And the world gets more and more divided, right? So, whatever you need to do on the outside, you have to continue to do. Right? I'm not saying that suddenly we go um, to take fanatics. There are people who are fanatics in the world. You go and make friends with them and start doing things like them. No, outside transaction, keep it the way that is most secure. But in our minds, we should not create distinction. We should not create this discrimination. You should always understand that each individual has some reason the way they are. Why they are the way they are, there is a reason, there's a particular reason why they are that way. And carry that compassion. It's very important. Right? See, look at this Chandala. Also, Chandala, if you notice, he's still showing compassion to Adi Shankara. Although the Chandala is more wise, he's wiser than Adi Shankara in that instance, in that exchange, he is still showing compassion in his response. He is not insulting Adi Shankara. He is not belittling him. How will we do if we think, and this is the way human tendencies are. Suppose I feel I am marginalized. See, Chandala in that community was a marginalized community, and that person was marginalized. So the moment you see somebody much more claiming to be greater, better than you, how do we respond generally? We want to insult them. We want to show them down. We want to show them down given an opportunity. We want to pull them down. This is our human tendency. Think about it. This is how we operate. Right? And somebody comes and stands in front of, when you realize, you feel that you're marginalized and somebody greater comes and stands there, you want to insult, you want to show him this thing in front of everybody. We do that. But here, look at the Chandala. He is, despite the fact that he is the one who's marginalized, and the fact that Adi Shankara is the more respected one, his response to Adi Shankara still carries a gentleness in the way he is telling him. Right? There is still a particular compassion, saying that I want to explain to you. What do you mean by what you're saying? So we'll look at those first two verses. So the first two verses that you see in the document are this exchange. Okay. So the first one goes as see, by the way, look at this. I loved this AI image that came out. I mean, I had to go through multiple prompts, different kinds of prompts to get to this image, but I really liked the outcome. Right. Then I also said, give me this monk. See, nowadays in AI, in your different kinds of AI tools, you cannot ask them to generate images of known, renowned public figures. So I cannot tell, give me an image of Adi Shankaracharya. It will not. It will say that it's not allowed. So I'll have to describe monk, bald head with ochre robe and things like that. So it's very interesting when you try to use different prompts to get an image. Okay, so the two verses that goes as a prelude to the Manisha Panchakam are the two verses told by the Chandala to Adi Shankara. So he says, Annamayad Annam Annamayad Annamayam Athva Annamayat Annamayam Athva Chaitanyam Eva Chaitanyat Yativara Duri Kartum Vanchasi Kim Bruhi Gaccha Gaccheti. So he says, are you asking to move? Are you asking this annamayat annamayam, which means, are you asking this body to go away from the body? Annamaya means that which is created by food. The body is created by food. Are you asking this body to go away from the body or the consciousness to move away from consciousness? What is it that you're asking me? Oh, Yativara, Duri Kartum Vanchasi. Which is that which you are desiring to move? When you are saying Gacha Gacha iti. When you are saying Gacha Gacha, Kim Bruhi Gacha Gacha iti, when you are saying Gacha Gacha means go away, go away. What is it that you're indicating should go away? Hmm? And then he also doesn't stop with that. And then with this verse, he completely describes the whole Vedanta. The whole Vedanta comes in the second verse that he describes. Pratyak vastuni nistaranga sahaja ananda avabodha ambudhau viproyam shvapachoyam shvapachoyam ityapi mahan koyam vibheda brahmaha kim gangambuni bimbitembaramanau चांडालवीथीपयः पूरे वान्तरमस्ति कांचन घटी मृत कुंभयोः वा अंबरे. So he is telling that pratyak vastuni nistaranga sahajam ananda. So this there is this joy and bliss that is there, which is nistaranga, without any waves. That Ananda Ambudha, which is the Ananda ocean of bliss that is there within each one, that is like the reflection of water in a pot or a ditch. So when reflection of the sun. So Surya, when the sunlight reflects in the Ganga water or it reflects in the gutter water, is the Surya impacted by it? The Surya is not impacted by it. So in the same way, when the consciousness that is there within, if it is reflected through a Chandala or through a Brahmana, how is the consciousness, how is the Chaitanya different? How can the Chaitanya be different? It is only reflecting. Can be reflecting through a Chandala, through a little worm, through a big elephant, um, through a man, a woman, a child. How can the Chaitanya be different? Consciousness. The experience of consciousness for you and for me is exactly the same. The way when you go into deep sleep and I go into deep sleep, it's exactly the same because we resonate in the experience of deep sleep. We all say deep sleep. I'm not saying disturbed sleep. I'm saying deep sleep. Whenever for a period of time you go into deep sleep, the experience of complete stillness and silence and joy that you're experiencing is the same that I'm experiencing. That is why Paramahamsa Yogananda says, we are all gods when we are sleeping. Only when we wake up, the devil wakes up. So that there is no difference there. And fundamentally, think about it in a very, very profound way. Fundamentally, there is no difference. See, this is something that I keep telling. There are differences in the world. We can keep differentiating ourselves by the differences. But what is for a spiritual sadhaka, you look for unity. You look for what connects us. What is similar between us? This is what a spiritual sadhaka does. He does not look at what differentiates us. He looks at what is common between us. Right? If a Devi Upasaka comes and a Vaishnavite comes and a Advaitin comes or whatever comes, as a spiritual sadhaka, we should try to see what connects all of these faiths, what brings them together, what is common amongst all of this, which is why our satsangs are all like that. Right? Our satsangs are all, we pick up a Vaishnava text, we pick up a Advaita text, we pick up a Devi text, we pick up Ganapati, we pick up whatever. Because we want to see the thing that is common amongst all this. Because the world is out there to differentiate. The smallest thing you will differentiate, right? The world is to create more and more specializations, more and more objects that are more and more different from each other. See, if you remember, those who know, I mean, our times of education 30 years ago, and even our parents and so on and so forth, education used to be holistic in many ways, right? A child would learn a lot of things for a rounded education. These days, specialization for a child's education sets in so early. So when you start specializing, you're differentiating. You're going only into one particular thing and you're losing the context of the whole. Right? So in that sense, we have to look at the common thread amongst all. As a spiritual sadhaka, one must continuously look for what is common between all of this. So he's saying the sun reflects water in Ganga. The sun reflects in the Ganga water and the sun reflects in a gutter water, a ditch water. What is the difference of the reflection? What is the reflection? What is the difference to the sun itself? There is no difference. The other example he says, Ambaramanau Chandala Vithi Payaha. So he says, what is the, when there is a space that is there in a golden pot or a space in a mud pot? What is the difference to space? Is there a difference to space? Swami Sarvapriyananda explains this nicely. He says, there is a drink here, there is hot water inside this glass. Okay. So when I take the glass, it's kept here. I carry the glass. Now, has the water moved? Yes, the water has moved. Otherwise, if the water doesn't move, then it would have spilled here, right? So the water moved with the glass, with the cup. But now look at space. Is there space inside the cup? There is space. So when I'm moving the cup, can I say the space in the cup is moving? Or is it more appropriate to say the cup is moving in space? Because the space, whether it's here or here or here, is not impacted by the movement of the cup at all. There is space outside and the cup is moving through space. Right? Very beautiful, right? So the way the one needs to see what is consciousness is, it's a very fundamental question. Is consciousness inside me, or is this body inside consciousness? But our experience is that consciousness is somewhere inside, because whenever you do dhyana, the way you go is you say you're turning inwards, you're going inwards. But that's an important step. It is an important step to go inwards. You go inwards to recognize that that which is in is also out here. So he says, whether you have a Swarna Kumbha, a golden pot, or you have a mud pot, does the space get impacted by that? Gopal saying, is consciousness personalized or common as space which is common? So there are two kinds of consciousness that is generally referred to in Vedanta. One is Jivatma, the other is Paramatma. Right? The supreme consciousness or the universal consciousness is referred to as Paramatma. The individual consciousness, that is referred to as Jivatma. Now, this is where philosophies start differentiating themselves. Advaita Vedanta says both are one and the same. What is in here is out there. It's exactly the same. Vishishta Advaita says that it is same in quality but not in quantity, which means qualitatively it is the same consciousness, but quantitatively supreme consciousness has its expanse around the whole of all that is created, but the individual consciousness is limited to this form. So there are some differences in terms of how the philosophies deal with them, but to do justice to this work, which is Manisha Panchakam, which is an Advaita Vedanta work, it will be useful for us to look at it, and both have its affair, both have its beautiful ways of looking at it, right? There are multiple philosophies and each one of them have a very beautiful way of looking at it, but it is also what resonates with you as an individual. So if you say that right now there is space, so I am moving through space in the same way I am moving through consciousness. So consciousness is everywhere. There is a plant here. Is there consciousness in the plant? Yes. Now, if there is consciousness here and the consciousness in a plant, what is in between the two? So consciousness is not something that rises at different places within space. It's not like that. Consciousness is the fundamental thing in which matter is existing. Of course, there are many more different kinds of philosophies that you look at it, because there are materialists who say from matter consciousness came. Sankhya philosophy says matter and consciousness coexisted, Purusha, Prakriti. But in our experience, and which is good always to take it back to forget the theory and the philosophy, look at our own experience. Forget who's saying what, right? In our own experience, do you feel you never feel unconscious at any point in time? You never feel the break in your consciousness ever. We've spoken about this. Even if you're going to sleep, you've had a deep sleep. When you get up, you feel continuity. You feel that I slept, I woke up. There's no break in consciousness there. Even if you were to go unconscious, somebody knocks you on your head and you go into the hospital, you're unconscious for a week, 10 days. When you wake up, you experience a sense of continuity. You don't experience loss of consciousness. Somebody else is coming there to narrate to you saying that you were unconscious for 7 days. Right? Your experience of consciousness, even in dream, for example, dream is very patchy, right? But how do you know it's patchy? When you get up, you know, suddenly something came, suddenly something came, suddenly something happened. When you wake up and you analyze the dream, it looks patchy. But in the dream, there is no sense of discontinuity. Dream inside the dream, you feel it is absolutely right only. You don't suddenly ask, Party, என்ன லூஸ் தனமா இங்க வந்த நான் இங்க உட்காந்துருக்கேன். You don't ask that, right? Party died 50 years ago, but she'd suddenly appear. You don't find it inappropriate because your consciousness continues to exist through all of this. So I'll always like to take it back to our own experience. What texts say is one thing, because the texts are in one way, there is a philosophy you can take it to an academic level of trying to understand between other philosophies, etc. But try to always bring it to your context, your individual's context. What makes more sense to you? So from that perspective, he says whether there is a mud space or a mud pot space or a clay pot or a golden pot space is not impacted. So in that, so he's saying this illusion that is there. What illusion? The illusion of sun's reflection. The sun is reflecting on Ganga water or ditch water. Or if there is space inside a mud pot or a golden pot, this illusion, isn't it the same as the illusion that you are a Brahmana and I am a Shudra or I am a Chandala? The same illusion is appearing here, O Shankara. See, look at the compassion this Chandala is exhibiting towards Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara is this great knower of truth, great sage. But the Chandala is so established in his understanding that he doesn't feel threatened. He's not feeling threatened. He's not feeling challenged. Coola apdi sollittu he is going away. Right? I don't think he's waiting till the 5 verses of this thing he's composing. I don't know. இப்போ நான் சொல்லிட்டேன் நீ சொல்லுப்பா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சண்டால வெயிட் பண்ணி மனிஷா பஞ்சகம் கம்போஸ் பண்ண. So he is in his own. There's one beautiful song sung by Abida Parveen and there's another lady, I forget her name, in Coke Studio. Jhoom Jhoom search பண்ணுங்க. Search for the word Jhoom Jhoom in YouTube, Coke Studio. Beautiful song. Both of them have sung together. Kalpaka, you should definitely listen to this. There's an experience of Jhoom means in Hindi, it means you are dancing with joy. That is what Jhoom means. And all of these people who are in a state of reclusivity, which means their state of freedom, they experience this joy. Yaar enna solra, yaar enga pora, edu pandra, that they're not bound by avadhutas. These are avadhutas, right? In many ways. Avadhuta means to drop everything. They've dropped and then they move very, very gently and very beautifully through life and through events and through space. So this Chandala is that way. Just imagine he comes around and he says suddenly Adi Shankara there's a monk standing there and he's saying go away, go away. It's like, what are you talking about? யாரை பார்த்து சொல்ற அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு then அப்புறம் கேஷுவலா அவர் பாட்டுக்கு he's going away on his own. He's not coming with an intention, I will teach him a lesson. See, next time this monk comes, I will மானத்தை வாங்குறேன் பாரு 4 பேருக்கு நடுவில் அப்படி. He's not thinking of those things. I'm assuming he's not. He's making a statement, he's saying it gently, he's saying, see, what are you talking about? This consciousness is that which is existing everywhere. All you have to do is experience that within yourself and without. Yeah. So that is the introduction to Manisha Panchakam. That's the context and the introduction. And from next week, we will see the verses, 5 verses. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Svabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana Yeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambiketi Samarpayami Satgurunatha Yeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Satgurubhyo Namah. Deva.